Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Let's Dev, where today we take another shot at the somewhat failure of our bomb tossing game endeavors. Indeed, last time we attempted to start work on the basics for a bomb throwing game inspired by the new Binding of Isaac DLC mechanic. However, the implementation of the bomb delivery system and the basic handling of the bombs in general left a lot to be desired. In other words, the decisions and code running the whole thing was pretty bad. It was a nice reminder that sometimes things just don't go as planned, and that's okay, because we can always try again. Which brings us to today's plan. We're going to attempt to improve the existing code, and whatever can't be salvaged will be rewritten, especially in the cases where the decisions behind said code made no sense. And finally, we'll try to build on the previous code with new features, which hopefully won't break anything in the process. Sounds like a plan, so let's get to fixing. First up was fixing the provider, which needed major changes, including the addition of creating actual physical bomb objects. That bomb was then tied to the provider via ID and passed on to the player when picked up. This would create a synergistic system between provider, player, and bomb. Next, the bomb needed some tweaking. The starting state would be the default spawn state. When the player picks up the bomb, it triggers the state timer to count down to an inevitable explosion. A thrown boolean would then be set to true when the player throws the bomb, which would send the bomb flying in the set direction. This was a tedious endeavor with some hilarious results, but after hooking up all the right variables in all the right places, the synergy approach ended up working out well. The provider would create a bomb, the player would pick up the bomb and throw it, and when the bomb was destroyed, the system would automatically reset itself amongst the affected objects. No joke, it took me almost 40 minutes to get everything working. In retrospect, redoing everything from scratch would have probably been the faster option. However, our bomb deployment and bomb behavior were now in better working order, so we could move on to something new. I wanted to try adding gravity and drift to the bombs, which is something Binding of Isaac seems to do with their bomb throws. First up was drift, which would occur when the player is in motion when throwing the bomb. Using the X and Y position of the player as reference, a directional shift would be applied, creating a curve via momentum. And the results were odd. The application of the curve was inconsistent. And despite tweaking the code, even adding some extremes for obvious results, I was unable to figure out why the curves were so random. So instead of wasting more time on the details, I opted to skip drifting to try adding back the gravity effect from our last attempt. So a gravity counter was added to the bomb. This counter would then begin once the bomb is thrown, and halfway through the time provided, gravity would suddenly kick in, altering the bomb's trajectory downward in the process. And again, after some time tweaking the numbers, we technically had gravity. It wasn't exactly one-to-one like in Isaac, but it was a nice start. However, much like the drift, it too had some weird inconsistencies. And being bad at math means I'm likely confusing something in regards to the angles calculations. But on the bright side, this version of the bomb tossing game is far superior to the first. It's more consistent, has an automated synergy amongst important parts, and should be much easier to improve on in the future. But sadly, this is where I had to call it for this session. Again, the rewriting took way more time than expected, and the constant trial and error number tweaking meant fewer interesting moments. But with a more solid base, I'm hoping future episodes will go smoother and this doesn't end up turning into something super crazy technical. But we'll see. Anyway, with that said, brings us to the end of today's episode of Let's Dev. So leave a like if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts on our progress in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.